Hi everyone and welcome back. Today's video I'm going to be talking to you guys all about the tilt table test. Do you need one? What can you expect? And is it required in order to get a POTS diagnosis? Now I do have another video on my channel. It was one of the first videos that I made talking about my tilt table test experience. I'm going to kind of reiterate how that went just because that video is so old and I have a lot more knowledge about the tilt table test now and if it's needed and required. So something that prompted me wanting to redo this video is I see a lot of questions out in the POTS community, whether on forums or support groups, where people are asking about the tilt table test. Maybe they have one scheduled and they're really nervous about it. Maybe that's the case for you. You have one coming up and you don't know what to expect. So let's first talk about what the tilt table test is. Basically, if your doctor suspects a type of dysautonomia or POTS, they're going to schedule you potentially for a tilt table test. I'm going to talk a little bit more about the way that I've noticed doctors feel about tilt table tests these days, but first let's go over what you can expect and what it is. So you will be strapped down to a table and you will be tilted at, I believe, a 70-degree angle, almost completely straight up and down. And they will monitor your blood pressure and your vitals, your heart rate. And if you have POTS, then your heart rate is going to shoot up at least 30 beats per minute. That is the criteria for being diagnosed with POTS, and it has to be sustained. It can't just like go up and just come right back down. It has to be sustained for a certain amount of time. I have heard different things on this, but I believe 5 minutes is the general criteria for a POTS diagnosis. And so for me, when I got my tilt table test, you know, they lay you down flat first so that they can get a baseline. And for me, my heart rate that day was around 90, lying down flat. And of course you're nervous, so your heart rate's probably going to be even more rapid. And then they slowly start to tilt you up. You're strapped in, like I said. So for me, I was really apprehensive about that because I'm claustrophobic and I don't like being tied down. But the people that were working with me were very kind and they made me feel like I was in control the whole time. They made sure I knew that I could stop the test at any point. And so that made me feel comforted. So they tilted me up to the 70-degree angle. You have a thing for your feet at the bottom so they're not just like dangling. But right away, for me, my heart just shot up and I was feeling nauseous, dizzy, you know, lightheaded, just really uncomfortable, really sick. I tried to last as long as I could, but I only lasted 7 minutes. And that's something that I really want to emphasize, is that you are in control. If a doctor is telling you that you have to stay in this contraption for X amount of time or else, that's not right. You are in control, and if you really feel that awful and like you can't take it, let them know. And so they got the data that they needed for me, you know, pretty much right away anyhow. So I didn't need to stay up there for any longer than I had. My heart rate went up from 90 to 160 or so, in the 160s, almost right away, and it sustained the whole time. That's how it was for me until they lowered me down, and then my heart rate went back down finally. When I got the report back about my tilt table test after the person who's in charge of kind of reviewing them, like an electrophysiologist or something like that, after he reviewed it, I got the report. It took several days, but it said it was consistent with POTS, and how my heart rate went from 90 to 160 and it was sustained. There was no real there was no real change in blood pressure for me. Like, it didn't plummet and it didn't rise. It pretty much stayed the same, and there was I believe on the note it said like a suspicion for volume depletion or, you know, lack of blood and such. So that's kind of was like my first step, my first diagnostic test toward my POTS diagnosis, other than I had like echocardiograms, countless of those. I had my heart looked at with an ultrasound. You know, the next step was the tilt table test, and then I got referred to my POTS specialist, who obviously confirmed that it was in fact POTS. Now, to address the question that I hear so often, do you need a tilt table test to be diagnosed with POTS? The answer is absolutely not. It's ridiculous to think that you have to be tied to this machine. Not machine, well, it's a bed that moves up. It's ridiculous to think that you would need that in order to get a POTS diagnosis, because postural orthostatic tachycardia syndrome denotes what? It denotes a change in your posture. You're orthostatic, you're up, you know, your heart races. Do you need a table for that? No, it's so easy to diagnose someone with POTS in the office of your primary care provider. So you're suspicious you have POTS, you have all these symptoms, but your doctor doesn't know what to do, they've never heard of it. You know, you have to advocate for yourself, and instead of scheduling this intense test that makes you nervous, you're scared, and what have you, they can do orthostatic vitals in the office. And so they can hook you up to the blood pressure cuff. They can monitor your heart rate quite easily. They don't need fancy equipment. And have you lay down or sit down, get a baseline, lay down, sit up, stand up, you know, take your vitals that way, and your body is going to indicate whether or not you have POTS. If you have POTS, your body is going to let them know in the absence of a tilt table test. So I really advocate for that. And honestly, pretty much all the specialists that I've talked to and read about, and my own doctor too, because the cardiologist is the one who ordered my tilt table test, and it took a lot to get in to do them because they are not the gold standard anymore for diagnosing POTS. My specialist said, why would you put a patient who's already feeling so horrible through something so anxiety inducing and something that is so not necessary? So no, you do not need a tilt table test. Do I think they're helpful in diagnosing POTS? Yes, obviously, but I do not believe they are necessary by any means. So that's kind of like how I'm talking funny, but that's how my tilt table experience went. That's what happens. I know for some people, and I don't understand this fully, but for some people they get injected with medicine to make their heart speed up, or different things. Like if their body isn't reacting the way that the doctor assumes that it should, they put medicine in their veins. I don't get that at all, because if you have POTS, you don't need any medicine injected into your veins in order for you to present like you have POTS or to make you pass out. It doesn't make any sense to me. Like, if you have POTS, you have POTS, and one day you wake up and you don't just not have POTS anymore. Like, say you have a tilt table test and you're scared that your body's not gonna let them know that you have POTS. Well, if you have POTS, you have POTS, and you have it every day. It's not like a one day you have it and one day you don't. There are good days and bad where your heart rate might not go to 180, but it's gonna go to 130 or 120. And so you're gonna have that increase of at least 30 beats per minute, give or take. And so anyways, I think I'm rambling at this point, but yeah, I think that's all I really wanted to cover. I do want to make a video in the near future about how you can do like it's called a poor man's tilt table test at home, where you can do those orthostatic vitals on yourself if you have like a pulse oximeter, blood pressure cuff, fitness tracker. Not even checking your blood pressure necessarily, but just like your pulse to see what happens when you go from lying to standing up, and that kind of can give your doctor some information if you're tracking that. So hopefully I can remember to do that. My brain fog has been really bad lately, but I'm trying to exercise more. On my channel I have videos talking about the Levine protocol and how I was following that. I haven't really updated you guys on it because I fell off the bandwagon. I did really well for 5 or 6 weeks and I noticed improvement, and then you have a flare-up or a bad time and you're tired, and so you kind of fall off and it's really hard to get back on. But for the last week or so I've been doing my recumbent bike every day. Maybe I've missed one day, and yesterday I actually did 30 minutes on there, and so I was really proud of myself. And it's not easy, but it's something that we need to do for our bodies if we're able. I was watching a lecture or a seminar by Dr. Raj, I believe, who is a POTS specialist. And he's really funny, but he's also really to the point and dogmatic somewhat. But he was saying how if you're on your recumbent bike and you're only doing like 10-12 minutes, and then you are like out of breath, you can't breathe, you feel like you're gonna black out, have a heart attack, he says you're doing it wrong. And at first I was like, whoa, that's kind of like a blatant blanket statement, or like a blunt statement to say that you're not doing it right. But he's saying that it does not matter how slow you go, as long as you get in those 30 minutes, that's what he wants to see. So that's my goal. I reached it yesterday, and I'm gonna keep reaching for it and see how things go. So that's where I'm at right now. I have a lot of appointments coming up, whether for my mental health or with my POTS specialist, just to kind of check in. I'm not on any medications at the moment, other than I'm still taking lorazepam as needed. The goal is still, of course, to come off of it, but I've had such bad attacks, adrenaline surges, whatever you want to call them, and sometimes it's just needed at this point. But yeah, thank you so much for watching. I know I kind of rambled on a little bit towards the end here, but I'm just glad I found the energy to film at all. So I hope you guys enjoyed this video. Please like and subscribe if you did, and if you want to see more videos, also leave me a comment down below if you've had a tilt table test. How did yours go? If you have one coming up, let me know what your concerns or questions are. Hopefully I can answer them, and leave me any suggestions for content that you would want to see from me. So I hope you guys are staying well and staying safe, and I'll see you in the next video. Bye.